And we're back with another video. Right where I left you. Not where I left you though. Anyway, so what are we talking about today, team? Well, as you might have guessed by the thumbnail, we're talking about the truth behind clean versus dirty diets or food groups, etc. And I'm also multitasking. So yes, men can multitask. I won't speak too soon though. Now, clean versus dirty, this is a very popular set of words, if you like. They're very popular terms. They're thrown around a lot these days, and I feel like they're getting more and more popular, but perhaps they're getting a little bit old as well, right? They're getting more and more overused, etc. And I think the reason being is because of social media, but also because people are starting to get sick of the whole like eat clean, train dirty sort of maxim, etc. Anyway, I want to go over with you really simply what is the difference, what do they mean, and give you a little bit of context behind a clean versus dirty diet or food, or what even consists or defines one at that. So, what's the difference between the banana or a donut? And I always use this example, and for any of my clients, I've probably used it. I just use these two arbitrary foods because when I think of clean or healthy foods, I think of bananas and fruit and lots of stuff like that. And when I think of dirty, I think of fast foods like donuts, right? That's the stereotype, or so it would seem. However, once again, this is a binary approach to nutrition, right? This is a one-dimensional view. It's not 3D, it's not holistic, and it certainly isn't healthy because, as you'll find, it all comes down to the context. So if you say to anyone, what's a healthy food versus what's a dirty food? What's a clean food versus a dirty food, right? They're gonna name something usually from the earth which is clean, right? Something like a potato, something like, again, a piece of fruit, a vegetable. If you say something like name a dirty food, it'll be something processed, right? It'll be something packaged, it'll be something very hyper palatable, something very high in calories and rich in taste, like a pizza or ice cream or waffles or anything else that your heart desires at the time. We've just used these terms to describe certain food groups, and we have given them that label, okay, because they are labels, because of society, for social media, or because of examples, etc., or the foods that are associated with certain body composition images. Okay, and what I mean by that is, for example, the person who is usually depicted as overweight or fat and lazy and not in good shape is usually defined with someone who's eating very high calorie foods, very overly processed, fast foods, KFC, McDonald's, donuts, all that stuff, where someone generally who's associated with a better body composition, got hiccups, better body composition is usually someone that is eating your vegetables, your fruit. There's nice asparagus on the plate with the vegetables laid out, the grilled chicken perfectly as it's put on Instagram. And then we've seen a bit of a turn, right? We've seen this kind of like, if it fits your macros, flexible dieting kind of approach, like hashtag, you know, if IIFYM, fuck it, you know what I mean? You get what I'm coming from, all right? Don't try and race me, mate, all right? It's not cool. Anyway, so the difference then is there's been a bit of a shift, and then we've seen, you know, with that sort of crew, people are lifting up their shirts. I've certainly done it. You know, you're eating ice cream and you're like, look, but I'm shredded, man, because, you know, we understand, or we've got to a point where we understand energy balance and we understand how to fit certain foods into our daily nutrition, along with good foods as well, and we've got our body composition lean because we understand, again, the energy balance principles, and also having a macronutrient profile and then manipulating that over time. However, just because you can eat these higher calorie foods, or these fun foods, if you like, or dirty foods, it's not about trying to get as much of those into your nutrition regime as possible, because then there was that shift where it was like, look how shredded I can be, and look how much fast food or, you know, dirty food I can eat. by modifying it by making a donut or a lower calorie cookie dough or whatever it was, right? So then that kind of became a phase. And then, if anyone who's done this, you get to a point where that kind of gets old, and then you just go back to eating, as you always did, most of the basic foods. You have your staples, you know, you've still got your chicken and rice in there, you still got your oats, etc. You've got your Greek yogurt, your fruit, your vegetables, your grains, your breads, and then maybe 20% of it's, you know, a bit of fun as well. So it's interesting how all of these sort of cycles have come full circle, or people go through these cycles when they discover this knowledge, and then they sort of end up going back to what they did in the first place, but now they just have context and specificity to it, and they make sure that it works and aligns with their goals of body composition. And then perhaps there's an area of people who never learn this, and they're constantly just restricting themselves and then binge eating because they're like, I gotta eat really clean, and then they binge and they feel bad and they cut, and then that's a whole nother topic within and of itself. But when we look at the example of a clean food, so again, let's go back to the banana and the dirty food, let's go back to the donut, and we say, okay, well, that food is clean, but that is dirty. And then we digress from the actual definition of what it would say if we look at the dictionary of clean versus dirty, and then what society says. But what actually defines that food? So clean is associated with healthy, and dirty is associated with unhealthy. Okay, why? Ask why. Why is that? So what does the banana have, or the clean food have, that the dirty or unhealthy food, what does that have? That what makes them, what differentiates the two? Right? What is it? So you look at the nutritional profile depending on what foods you're comparing. In this case, we're comparing a banana to a donut. They've both got carbohydrates. Granted, the donut's going to have more. Granted, it's going to have more simple sugars, but the fruit, banana, definitely still has those as well, the fructose. Okay, the donut probably has more fat, granted, depending on the donut, but usually it will. Okay, they've both probably not got a lot of protein in them. But there is another set of nutrients which the healthy or the clean food usually has, which the dirty or unhealthy food doesn't. And that's the micronutrient profile. Because fundamentally, the carbohydrates are all going to be digested virtually to the end result the same. They might be digested a little bit faster if it's a simple versus complex carbohydrate, without getting into too much detail, but fundamentally they're going to be converted into glucose and glycogen and stored in the muscle and the liver until presently used. However, with the micronutrients, your banana is going to have, in this scenario, more vitamins and minerals, right? The donut, because it's been artificially made, or it's been processed, or it's something that we've put into it, depending on the method, but 9 times out of 10, it's not going to have any vitamins or minerals. It's not going to have any micronutrient value to us. So therefore, it gets a bad rap, and it gets disassociated with a healthy food, and it gets associated with someone fat, overweight, or being bad or dirty, or it's a cheap food, etc. So let's now put this into an actual real life example. I'm at the table and I have a banana and a donut in front of me, and I can choose either or. Okay, I can eat either one. Say the banana's got roughly 180 calories in this particular banana, and this donut's got, say, 400 or 500 calories in this particular scenario. Both got carbohydrates, one's got a lot more, donut's got more fats, banana's got vitamins and minerals, and so on and so forth. However, if I'm someone who's an active individual, who has a healthy body fat percentage, who trains very regularly, most of my food comes from good, nutritious, wholesome sources, would it be unhealthy? Would it be bad for me to have that one donut? Probably not. No, it wouldn't be, would it? However, let's make another example, okay? Same table, same food, but this time I am not a healthy individual, I am not an active individual, I'm sedentary, I'm sat most of the day, I'm overweight, I do not have a healthy body composition, I do not have good nutritional habits, most of my food is not coming from whole foods, okay? I am eating mainly processed and fast foods, I'm eating sporadically, etc. Then, is the donut bad for me? It's probably not the best choice. It might not be bad for me in the actual specific term, but it's probably not the best choice in the grand scheme of things. The banana in that scenario would probably do a lot more good, because again, it would give me some much needed vitamins and minerals and a lower calorie intake because I'm already overeating, or again, I'm already overweight. So that's a very specific example, and it's a bit extreme, but it kind of gets across the point that it is all contextual. And again, society has labeled certain foods because they're associated with certain body compositions or certain health protocols which have labeled them so. And the reason why we don't want to get into this approach is because if we think of foods as clean and dirty, good and bad, and healthy and unhealthy, okay, it starts to give us a bad relationship with food over time. And you may not realize it, but that does take its toll. And over time, if you get to a point where you can't eat a food group, or you can't go out and eat a certain amount of food, or you can't eat a diet rich in certain foods because your belief is that it will make you fat from eating that one food or that certain food group, then that there in itself is not only a bad relationship with food, but it's an eating disorder. It is a mild eating disorder, okay? And a lot of people have this. They avoid food groups like the plague. They associate even macronutrient profiles or even macronutrients in general with gaining weight. Like, wow, if I have too much fat, I'll get fat. It's like, well, that depends on your calorie intake and your balance, right? And it depends on over time. It's not about this just here right now. If I eat this food, I'm just all of a sudden going to wake up fat. Like, that's not how it works. But it sounds really simple when we put it like this. But it's misconstrued, and it's taken out of context a lot of the time. So when we look at a clean diet and a dirty diet, what they're really defined as is something which is all whole foods that are from the earth, which have very little to no processed or fast foods in them, versus a dirty diet, which is something that is generally largely encompassing your processed foods, your fast foods, your very high calorie rich tasting foods, which once again is probably not the best intake. But how about we have a bit of a balance? Once again, what if we have a little bit of both? Is that really going to harm us? No, it's not. So we don't have to have this super clean intake. We don't have to have a dirty intake. And it's not about putting these foods into categories going, well, that's clean and that's dirty and that's the way it always will be. Once again, it comes down to your goals, your preferences, your body composition, your needs, your preferences, and the list goes on. It's multifaceted. It's never just one thing. So don't ever demonize a certain food group. Try not to label it or put it into a certain silo, okay? Because that can end up being a bad thing, and it can also lead to restriction, and restriction often not leads to binging. And that is not what we want at the end of the day, okay? We want good relationships with food because they will help us have more flexibility, sustainability, and an enjoyable factor and relationship towards nutrition over time, which is what we want. Guys, I'm going to leave it there. I wanted to delve into it a little bit without oversimplifying it, but at the same time I wanted to define some of those terms. I wanted to use some real life examples, etc. And we see this every day, whether it's on social media or the news. Cocoa Pops are bad. No, they're not. That's a bit unfair. It depends on how many you're having of them, right? It doesn't mean that you can't still eat them, or you can't eat them in alignment with other healthy, nutritious foods. Anyway, I digress. As always, team, comment below, let me know what you think. If you've got any questions, reach out. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill. And make sure you hit that bell icon so you get notified every time I do a video. We're going to be dropping weekly videos, and as I've mentioned in my Instagram stories, there's lots more to come with a new series with Icon Kitchens for you as well. These ones are a little bit more fun, light-hearted, just delving into topics off the cuff, just sharing some of my own experience with you, and that of which I've learned over the years from working with clients. So guys, thank you for watching as always. I appreciate all your support. I hope you're loving the podcast. If you're not aware of that, check out the link in the description below and make sure you download the latest episode with world champion Nick Jones. It's an absolute belter. And until next time, as always, stay fearless. That's a good strategy you've got there, getting one pour on it. Yeah, then it can't get away.